What's up, family? How's everyone? I have this big, bright smile on my face because I am so excited to bring y'all this information, man. Oh my goodness, this information is powerful. I looked at the last video. I want people to really just this is some great information. I know many of us like to be entertained. I mean, don't get it twisted. Like everybody love, I ain't gonna say love, everybody's different, but bottom line, we all enjoy being entertained at some point or the other. However, I say that to simply say this. There comes times where we have to sit through information regardless of if we're being entertained or not. I ain't look, I appreciate all the subscribers, I appreciate all the viewers, but this information is so powerful. I want people to really, just take the time and know exactly what's going on in the world. This is a disclaimer, as we all can see. I'll let it run its course. All right. So make sure we get that out the way. I'll keep that up until we really just get rolling. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we know why we have to be just on our P's and Q's even more so than ever. This is part two, and it may be the final cut. I mean, I'll continue to do the research. This stuff is so just, for lack of words, mind-blowing in terms of what had been conveyed to the public. And it's definitely Africa-centered. And I'm gonna tell you why it's Africa-centered. It's Africa-centered, African-centered, because we here in Africa, let me close this window real quick. There we go. We here in Africa have the luxury of we haven't even been exposed to these higher levels of the little g. We are, and it's such a beautiful thing. And again, I always talk about how we don't need to be patenting or patterning our lifestyles after the West. This information is going to give you conclusive reasoning of why you don't need to pattern yourself after the West. All the trickery and the deception and the hidden, things in terms of information that goes on a consistent basis over hundreds of years, it's just going to be just so mind-blowing. So we actually are in a position, we have the ability to get ahead of the curve, know what to say no to, and by the same token, preserves our lives, preserve our baby lives, because this stuff is super, harmful and dangerous. And I'm not going to play the expert. I've just done due diligence doing some research, and I'm going to turn you to the resources and references and scientists that have spent countless years in the history that speaks to exactly what I'm sharing. So with that being said, let's get into one of the first things that I want to touch on. And let's see. The first thing I want to touch on, let's do a little screen sharing. And I ain't gonna say that every time because I even get aggravated by it. So I know you get aggravated by it. So let me check this out real quick. Here we go. This information is just like, I'm so excited, y'all, because I mean, it's just like, I ain't gonna say just when you thought you knew something else, because I mean, none of us should be that arrogant, if you will, that we feel like we know something, that we know everything. But I mean, it's as the old saying goes, just when you thought that, it couldn't get any worse or whatever, like just when you thought that, like, okay, I have a good grip on what's going on, then they come out with some more just damning information. And my favorite saying, the more you know, the more you realize how much you really don't know. I mean, that's one of my mottos. That's one of my mottos. So let's talk about these scientists here. and let's get some of their take on some of the information. And while you're looking at this reference, I want to very quickly go over introduction just as a reminder of the content that's going to be delivered to you. There are two important conversations regarding wireless technology going on today. And this is going to be pretty much the consistent premises of what I'm going to share with you, and you're going to see this. There are two important conversations regarding wireless technology going on today. The first carried on by telecom companies, their investors, and the media promises a fantastic new future with breakthroughs in communication. We hear it all the time. All right, medicine, education, transportation, and entertainment. Some people, China, want to basically launch new suns, you know, like we need a second sun. Been here for billions of years, but now we need a second sun. But in my Dr. Mumby voice, that story for other days. Some people say it's a conspiracy. Some people say it's a distraction. We'll talk about that another time. Again, all delivered instantly by seamless wireless infrastructure surrounding us everywhere we go. The second, involving medical professionals, public health experts, and scientific researchers. We're going to deal with some facts, right? Concerns a looming public health crisis based on proven biological risk from both short and long-term exposure to radio frequency, also known as RF, microwave radiation, or wireless radiation, the foundation of that wireless infrastructure. And so the race between science and commerce is on and popping with extremely high stakes for everyone. Will scientists and public health officials be able to make their voices heard before powerful new wireless networks and devices become even more ingrained in the everyday lives of consumers? Or will there be enough time to alert the public to undeniable risk and compel government to take steps to public health? We're going to see some of these government officials' reaction, and stay tuned. This is not the first time we face questions like these. At one point in time, DDT, I actually have this on the back of this shirt, speak about asbestos and tobacco were all considered beneficial. If we're old enough, we remember where everything had somebody smoking. And I mean, this goes well before me, obviously, because people was they was lighting them, firing them up on a consistent basis when I got here 42 years ago. But I say that to say this. I mean, when you talk to your grandmas and, you know, your granddaddies, etc., and the type of smoking commercial that inundated, you know, our people as a whole through the TV, media, radio, etc., it was glorified. And then the history provided, the research rather, provided us with information, knowing that only later as the research matured and the health impacts became obvious, did we understand the danger of ignoring emerging science and early signs of trouble. Will we make the same mistake again with wireless radiation? Again, the one thing that I really want to take a moment and I want us to soak that in is that, look, it's not always about what's popular. It's not always about, hey, you know what, oh, this is the new trendy thing. Oh, everybody talking about this. By the time everybody's talking about it, it's too late. Come on, people. So I want y'all to tune into this. I want you to like it. I want you to share it. I want you to subscribe, because this information is just that. It's great information. So let's jump into just one of these few points that I want to highlight. Then I'm gonna actually have a scientist that's gonna give us some touching points. I'm gonna basically go pull a few clips from an interview, a very short interview that he done. But basically the first point, again, you see the reference. Few people outside the industry knew that Dr. Henry Lay and Narendra Sai Singh at the University of Washington in Seattle had just published a study documenting a breakthrough discovery: single-strand DNA breaks resulting from exposure to wireless radiation, the energy produced by virtually all wireless communication devices. That's the reference. Those are the books. You could go check it out yourself. Let's go look at the next one here. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Let me check it about that out. And I want to give you guys this information. You know, I pulled this information from obviously multiple sources, but hey, I want to give you the references throughout the course of the video. And obviously I'll put some things as I see needed rather. And as you make comments, you know, you can always go and update the description tab. I'll include those as well. So, you know, again, this is another reference here where you can check out the books, the pages that's its own, etc., etc. Make sure I have this right. Early studies on wireless radiation and biological effects. The work of the same scientists at the University of Washington, was not the first study to suggest biological effects from wireless radiation. Studies conducted by the US military between 1940 and 1960 had documented biological effects and impacts on behavior from exposure to wireless radiation. So again, we're talking about this thing being done over 100 years, well over 100. I mean, talking this 2022, I'm talking well over 100 years. All right, let's jump into another reference real quick. And this is Africa. So, you know, hey, I started at a great time. You hear the chickens, you hear the cows. I don't even know everything out here, to be honest with you, but you know, it is what it is. The audio should be high enough where we all can tune in and make sure that we don't miss any information. All right, so this particular reference here, this reference is, again, the same doctors, and there's multiple doctors, but again, the same doctors published another study, this one showing both single and double strand DNA breaks. We already had one reference with low intensity RF microwave radiation with a spatial average power, and it provides, you know, the frequencies and the hertz and things of that nature. The following year, they repeated the studies, but this time added a group of rats that were given melatonin. You know, hey, we all talk about the importance of melanin and things of that nature, which is a potent free radical scavenger, with a potent free radical scavenger before and after RF exposure. They found that melatonin seemed to block the adverse effects of the radiation. I think I mentioned this in the first first video. I'll definitely say this again. We want to definitely be mindful that we do have certain natural resources. Those natural resources being not only you know, our skin and things of that nature, but the natural resources, excuse me, that's a biological thing, is stones. You have what's called tourmaline stone. You have essentially the darker the stone, the better it is at repelling radiation in a lot of cases. Me personally, I know you do have some that simply absorb the radiation that's in the home. And the reason why I make the emphasis on the difference between the two is because, you know, I have some that are like a necklace, you know, and if it repels the radiation, you know, that's cool to wear that. But if it's absorbing the radiation, you definitely want to be hesitant about that, but hang it up in a place in your home. I had one where I hung it up on my rear view mirror in my vehicle, you know, just to kind of absorb that radiation and keep it obviously from me absorbing it. So, you know, they both would be great, but just make sure as you use them, you know exactly which one is repelling and which one is absorbing. I think that's a good reference point that just popped in my mind. So that's a few points about radiation in and of itself. Let's look at the history of, I'm gonna say that for last. One thing I want to touch on real quick is a quick short read, and then, you know what? Before I do that, let's jump into this gentleman here and let him talk to you a little bit. So this is a quick interview that was conducted by a scientist, and I want you all to listen. Not that one. What did I do with that thing? Oh yeah. No, it's not here either. Man, oh, there it is. I'm tripping. All right, here we go. Let's take care of this real quick. So let's start at the 5:20 mark. And for the sake of time, I'll put his name in the description, but I just don't want to, I'm just being mindful of everyone's time. I want this information to come, not necessarily quick, fast, in a hurry, but more specifically, I want to maximize the time. So let me jump into this.
Green Street Radio is a production of Grassroots Environmental Education. Learn more about us and our programs at www.grassrootsinfo.org or follow us on Facebook at Grassroots Info and on Twitter at GrassrootsENVED.
All right, so that's a reference. Man, I can't believe I did that. All right, we're gonna just refresh this real quick. A little technical difficulties, but it is what it is. It ain't nothing major. All right.
Green Street Radio is a production of Grass.
All right. Why is it doing that? All right, I know what to do. Had it, but
Green Street Radio is a production of Grassroots Environmental Education. Learn more about us and our programs at www.grassrootsinfo.org.
There we go.
And so on.
They'd be coming from virtually every wireless device we use, from the cell phone to the cordless phone, to wireless security systems, to wireless smart meters, utility meters that are wireless.
So all devices
Wi-Fi
are using
routers, any Bluetooth device. Almost all of these are using pulse waves, all or in part.
Okay, so so what's not using pulsed waves?
I don't really know at this point.
A microwave oven?
The technology gets extremely complicated. And even when I ask some of the electrical engineers to explain it to me, I can't get good explanations.
Okay, so basically all of our wireless devices are sending out pulsed waves, and you feel that the pulsed waves are more harmful.
That's my hypothesis. I would like to see it tested better experimentally. When I've asked a number of scientists why there aren't more comparative studies, the answer I've generally gotten is, well, basically most of the funding for these studies has come from industry, and industry does not want to know the answer to that question.
All right, so that's one reference, and let me give you another one. Again, this scientist is very good. That interview, if you're looking at your screen, is actually 36 minutes. Obviously,
Green Street Radio is a production.
Man, this thing just, but whatever. I don't know. I was not having any of these type of issues. I'm not going to, we're not going to listen to 36 minutes, obviously. But I want to jump to, again, what I feel are some very, very, very critical points.
Green Street Radio is a production.
All right. Here we go. Let's start here.
Know from the early research that this stuff is potentially harmful, and I think they've just been avoiding funding research, especially in the U.S., because they don't want to know more. And when you read the reports from the secondary insurers like Lloyd's, formerly Lloyd's of London, and Swiss Re, well, they are concerned about the risks, the health risks from wireless radiation. They've recommended to the insurance industry not to provide liability insurance. For that reason, they are most concerned about what industry insiders know about the health effects, because that will definitely affect the punitive damages when juries finally do make awards to the victims of the effects of this form of radiation. I noticed several years ago that Samsung phones had much lower radiation levels, absorption of radiation, people who use Samsung phones, than phones made in the U.S. So I made an inquiry through colleagues there about why they were doing this, and it had nothing to do with health reasons. It was basically a marketing decision, because with lower radiation phones, you get better battery life. You could make smaller phones with smaller batteries and still get long life. And it was a marketing decision. It had nothing to do with trying to reduce the potential health effects of these phones.
Very interesting.
And this is the last part.
The years about this form of radiation, and no one seems to be paying attention. I put out a tip sheet on my saferemr.com website, which has been reposted on a number of other websites, just a simple one-page tip sheet. I put out a lot of information trying to raise people's awareness, as well as inform the scientific community, keep them up to date on the latest research. I've been trying to get a cell phone warning document out of the state of California. The California Department of Public Health authored a cell phone warning document at least 4 years ago that has yet to be released, being suppressed at the higher levels, I guess, of the administration. And staff would like to see this out to give the public some precautionary recommendations. The CDC tried to put out precautionary recommendations, actually did put out precautionary recommendations for about 10 weeks this summer. I did a little press release on it. It got picked up by the trade press, and within a week of my press release, the site was revised. And there's an explanation about why they pulled their precautionary warnings from the site, which makes no sense. And the explanation really doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you read it. So there's a lot of suppression operating at many levels. I did a webinar for CDC Cancer Prevention Work Group recently, and they seemed quite surprised to hear what I had to say. I suspect the CDC doesn't have a whole lot of expertise left, since their leading expert left about a year ago for the Environmental Defense Fund. So our government agencies are basically flying blind or been co-opted by scientists who have bought into the industry line, and it's very troubling. There are some promising developments. Recently, the California Medical Association adopted a resolution calling on the government, actually, to review the regulatory standards and talking about their concern about non-thermal risks. So we're making a little headway here and there, but we need to find a tipping point. And perhaps if experts become more public, which is difficult for many of them. There are many that support our position, but either feel it's not appropriate for scientists to take a public position, or afraid of jeopardizing their funding should they take a public position. But eventually, I think we will break through, as has happened with asbestos and tobacco and others.
All right, so I wanted to stop it there. Obviously, you saw some very, very, very alarming references there. And I want to be very clear and candid, because I'm putting this information out here, and let's just be transparent, at a risk of the time and energy in terms of developing, putting clips together. That's the only thing that I could say would potentially be wasted, because the knowledge is invaluable. It would never be wasted. It's not like, oh, I'm only doing some research so I can share it on my channel. Heck no. I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it, because I see the significance of knowing this information, and the rest speaks for itself. But even in, the references to the 3-letter acronym, I mean, people, like, one thing that's consistent, and I'm so happy that you are having the ability to hear this, is that it's that follow the money module. He started with telling you about how, basically entities are not really inspired to do the research because they're not receiving the proper funding, and how the results vary based off the establishment being funding. And then there again, when independent scientists, they do it without funding, without persuasion, they're coming up with the information that I'm conveying to you right now. You have a reference that was about at the 9-minute mark or excuse me, the 8-minute mark in this video of how you actually have insurance entity, and everybody know who Lloyd's of London or London Insurance is. I mean, like, that's like, if not the largest, definitely one of the largest. And that's on a very, very, very short list. And I'm very familiar with insurance. I have a background in insurance. And they basically refuse to even provide insurance for the carriers in regards to this information being concerned, because of, again, studies show, oh, guess what? We're gonna lose some money if we sign up on this in the long run, just like they said with tobacco, asbestos, and things of that nature. So again, y'all, this is our opportunity to get ahead. This is our opportunity to get ahead. Don't wait till this is mainstream news. As I said in the last video, when it becomes mainstream, when it becomes popular, when it becomes the end thing, at that point, guess what? It's worthless. It's ancient history. The damage has been done. And damage has been done, you know, being framed in respect to what's going on with this now, but we still have an opportunity. If you're living in certain places in the world, you still have an opportunity to get away, to say no, to raise red flags and say, no, we're not gonna take it. Don't be the sheep who like, oh, they're coming to save us. This is great. It's always great when they say, you think they're gonna tell you, hey, we coming to kill you? You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna do that. But the information, I'm gonna let it speak for itself. Biological harm to living organisms. Great segue. Science is revealing harm to many living organisms from exposure to electromagnetic fields and wireless radiation, including trees, plants, animals, insects, and bacteria at levels at or below current US safety guidelines. Keep in mind, the emphasis on that it's providing this type of poison at levels in line with their so-called regulation or below. I mean, so think about it. Y'all smart, y'all got it, but my goodness, I mean, like, it ain't say at levels over, you know, guidelines and stuff like that. It said at levels below the guidelines. Man, this is important information. In 2013, a group from the Institute of Environmental Sciences in the Netherlands published a thorough review of the ecological effects of RF EMF based on 113 published peer-reviewed studies. 113, but more importantly, published peer-reviewed studies. They found that wireless radiation had a significant negative impact on birds, insects, other vertebrates, and multiple organisms and plants in 70% of the studies. For instance, bees are a critical pollinator species required for the adequate fertilizations of flowers, ensuring that a new generation of seeds and fruits will be produced. New research suggests that the recent decline in wildlife and bee populations may be associated with higher levels of ambient electromagnetic radiation, known as EMR. Birds and bees use an iron or mineral called magnetite, magnetite, I apologize. In their brains for navigation and distant migration. Electromagnetic microwave radiation has been shown to disrupt this process. I'm gonna finish. Research has also demonstrated abnormalities in reproduction and behavior of birds nesting near cell towers. I go ahead and complete the sentence. There's certain words I try to stay away from. We've talked about the obvious, but remember when I was talking about the navigation in the first video and how I was talking about, man, we don't see bugs and bees splatter our front windshields like we used to at one point. Well, again, I mean, that's the science. 113 independent published peer-reviewed studies, industry pushback. You got to know this information. Well, I'm telling you one side, I'm going to tell you the other side. This ain't no biased information. It's coming straight down the pipeline, unbiased. Not surprisingly, the wireless industry has published back hard, excuse me, let me slow down, has pushed back hard against this ever-growing body of independent peer-reviewed research, commissioning their own studies and questioning the findings and competence of independent scientists. It sounds like something familiar today. I'm just saying. Like the tobacco industry before it, the wireless industry has sought to create sufficient doubt in scientific controversy to dissuade federal regulators from reigning in the broad expansion of wireless networks. Researchers like the researchers Henry Lai became concerned about the manipulation of science for profit. And in 2006, he analyzed the available studies of RF microwave radiation between 1990 and 2006, including the source of funding for the studies. He found that 50% of the 326 studies show a biological effect from exposure to RF microwave radiation, and 50% show no effect. But check this out. Man, I'm gonna put this up to the camera. I think y'all might be able to see this for yourself. Hopefully you can. I'm confident you will be. It's the bottom part of the last paragraph. But when he separated the studies based on funding, he found that only 30% of the industry-funded studies show an effect, while 70% of the independently funded studies show an effect. Again, folks, bro, let me tell you something, man. When you study history, one beautiful thing about studying history is that they don't got a lot of tricks. They don't do a lot of things different. They do the same thing. So when you know history, you know how they play their games. Everything that I've just showed everybody, read the different scientists that have given their take, they do the same thing over and over. It's one thing coming to my mind right now, and I'm gonna pull it. Even with the entertainers and the athletes, all of them fall in the category entertainer. I ain't gonna, be too wordy here. Even with them, they put them on the stage, they put them before us, and they advocated a certain thing that's been going on ever since 2019. You know what I'm talking about. It ain't hardly no entertainers, especially when it started, that was like, hell no, I ain't messing with this. You know why? Because just like the scientists were saying earlier, out of fear that they would lose their job. So whether it's scientists out of fear that they would lose their job, out of fear that they would stop the funding, or these entertainers out of fear that they wouldn't get that paper no more, they went the route of those who are funding and controlling the narrative, i.e. the media outlets and sources. They use the same tricks. Guess what? They did the same thing with Elvis Presley. Go back and do the research. When they wanted to start pushing a certain narrative, they put Elvis Presley on TV and showed the world him taking the punch. Do the research. Do the research. Do the research. Do the research. They don't have different tricks. You know the saying. Can you blame them? If it ain't broke, then why fix it? If it ain't broke, then why try to fix it? And guess what? Unfortunately, what they've been doing ain't broke, so they ain't gonna try to fix it. Man, come on, man. Well, I'm so glad I'm fired up about this great information, because we need to know what's going on, man, so we can move the way we need to move. Come on. Like, these babies shouldn't be playing with these devices, especially the extended time that they do. And again, they sent everybody home, told them, the children, to learn from school. Now, children are in front of all these tablets and laptops and cell phones for 8 hours, 5 days a week. Got something in my eye. 8 hours, 5 days a week. And they're gonna run back to the cell phone, TV, tablet, internet as soon as they finish homework. I would do it if I was in school. The poison. The studies have been done about the poison that's basically affecting Even when the child is inside a mother's womb, it's all here laid before you. I'm gonna put the references, I'm gonna put the information in the description. So yeah, I'm passionate about this, man. This stuff has been harming the world at large in ways that we have no earthly idea. You heard the scientists talk about it. It's been suppressed. It's been suppressed. All right, man. I'm not gonna make this too long, but I want everybody to get it, because I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how many more videos I'm gonna make on this, but the information is out. You do with it what you feel is necessary, but the information is out. The last page I'm gonna drop real quick, because all this stuff is so good. Cool. In 2012, the U.S. Government Accountability Office issued a report recommending that the FCC update its human exposure guidelines for RF microwave radiation. The following year, the agency commenced an official review of its exposure policies. Thousands of comments were submitted, including hundreds from independent experts from around the world. The agency closed the inquiry in late 2013, taking the comments under advisement. So essentially no action. No acknowledgement of the review was announced, of course. Recently, members of Congress had demanded to know the results of the inquiry and why the guidelines haven't been updated. FCC Chairman Ajit Pai has responded with a recommendation that the FCC formalize its long outdated exposure standards, which for cell towers, antennas, and other wireless infrastructure are among the least protective in the world. Conclusion: the notion that exposure to radio frequency microwave radiation is not harmful to humans, which has been the underlying principle of all federal legislation and regulations regarding wireless technology for more than 20 years, has now been proven false. That's your fact check. The substantial body of credible science documenting harm from exposure to various levels and frequencies of wireless radiation demand a precautionary approach to the widespread deployment of wireless technologies to reduce potential harm to the public and the environment. More than 240 scientists with published peer-reviewed research on wireless radiation and human health signed an appeal to the World Health Organization and the United Nations calling for precautionary health warnings and stronger regulation of wireless radiation. So somebody know what the hell they talking about. 240 scientists signed an appeal. Somebody know what the hell they talking about. Somebody know what they're talking about. This powerful information, man. They got us thinking one thing taking us out, but it's really something else taking us out. Boy, y'all better get this information. Boy, y'all better get this information. It's self-explanatory. Let me jump into something else real quick. I was thinking about if I'm gonna read that. This one particular thing, I pulled this up, and basically, obviously looking at a few things, and this lady, I'm not gonna give the whole backdrop for time's sake, but she was essentially an understudy of the understudy of the first man who developed the X-ray and deemed the X-ray when he actually did the study on his wife, and that's his name there, Wilhelm Röntgen. Basically, that was in 1895, 1896. Henry, he did another one, and Mary Curie was actually an understudy of Henry. So this is what I want you all really to know. This how alarming, if you will, is this, knowing that this young lady, I may need to back up just a little bit. Nah. Well, yeah, I am, because I want to give you a little backdrop of her. Again, very credible people. How many people that I've brought to you that are Nobel Peace Prizes? It's two come to mind right now. I think the speaker, he was one as well. It may even be three. I don't remember. I'm talking about through all the videos in terms of speaking of this subject matter. But she was awarded, again, Mary Curie, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize twice, once alongside Henry, who she was an understudy of, and her husband, Pierre in physics for their work with radioactivity, and again years later in chemistry for her discovery of radium and polonium. She also conducted pioneer work in radiology, developing and deploying mobile X-ray machines for the battlefields of World War I. Skip that article. That's just like a remembrance to her and contribution. Specifically, this young lady died in 1934 of aplastic anemia, probably developed from extended exposure to various radioactivity materials, the dangers of which were only really understood long after most of her exposure had occurred. I can disagree with that portion in and of itself, because in the late 1800s, they were finding things about it. But, let's keep the information, where it is. Specifically, in fact, her papers and even her cookbook are still highly radioactive, and many are considered unsafe to handle, store in shielded boxes, and requiring protective equipment to safely review. This is one thing that I want to harpen on, if you will, with that, is that bring up this article as I talk, just so the people can have another reference and some things to look at. My only thing to that, let's deal with logic. Was she exposed to more radiation, far more radiation, if you will, than her peers at her time? And when I say her peers, I'm speaking of just like other humans, not even necessarily her co-workers or other scientists or developers or things of that nature. Absolutely, we know that's the case. But this is my thing. How far again have technology come from the time she passed away in 1934, and that's just when she passed away, the time that she was doing the studies in the early 1900s until now? And that's the early 1900s. So let me be more specific. In 1900 until now, how far have scientists come? How far have not necessarily the scientists, but have the envelope been pushed in terms of we can make it faster, we can make it stronger, we can make it more powerful? So in essence, if some of the things that she handled back then can't even be handled today because of this exposure, what's going on with us? What's going on with us? Man, these are some great topics. In 1991, I have a reference here where you can find an article where CDC mortality data spiked when the national system was turned on for texting. Man, it's some of the most minute stuff that we don't even take in consideration. We wouldn't, but why would we? It haven't been brought to our attention. But like texting, come on, as I talk about this subject matter, how many of us have really said, man, you know what? Texting probably even, spiked the death. And this is by the CDC, bro. This is by them. So again, man, I want everybody to see this information, share it as much as you can, because I dropped some acronyms that, when they screen, and even before we go through the process of uploading our videos, they check for certain trigger words and content. And man, like, if it don't get out there, I have to find another way to pass it along. But you know what? If it do get taken down, I'm doing something right. I'm doing something right. Well, look, that's all I have for now. I appreciate your time. Hey, I ain't even gonna plead with you, but what I am gonna say, make sure that this video get more likes than the last one. Make sure that this video get more views than the last one. I mean, come on, man, this information is too powerful. I'm gonna say it one more time. They got us thinking one thing killing us, but it's really something else. What? You talking about the old, I don't know, the saying, but basically having one hand behind the back and stabbing them with another one, you get what I'm trying to bring to your mind right now. Man, look into this information, protect these babies meaning those that are still in the womb, and the unborn, and well, that's kind of like unborn, but those that are still in the womb and those that are here with us. Limit the time that our children are exposed to these devices. It's so important. Like, take these measures. We are limited in what we can do. Don't get it twisted. They got these things everywhere. And they have it everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's Wi-Fi accessibility. But what can we do? We can, make sure we have certain lights that we don't use, like LED. I have a reference for that, where that is more harmful than even some of the traditional lighting that we've been exposed to. Solar panels. Let's start using, more solar panels for just like a natural and self-sustainability. Those solar panels are ultimately providing the energy to some of the devices we use. But then and again, but in addition to that, let's turn off these devices at night. Don't sleep with these devices. Don't sleep with these devices beside your bed. I have a good friend who really turned me on to a lot of this information by providing me with tools to study and introduce me to it. But I say those things to simply say this, and I know she's not a stranger of sharing her name. Her name is Grayson Porter. These shirts can be, provided for those who want a shirt like this and just want to say, yeah, I feel like this gospel needs to be shared. But she gave me something that's known as a goodie bag. And when you put your device, your mobile device in there, it keeps the radiation from getting outside that bag. It's called a good night bag. And so you can put it in there at night, So just do what you can do, man. One thing about life, and one thing that I very strongly, feel that works. I don't like to use that word believe. That's why I'm getting tangled. I got to lie in the middle of it. But that story for other days with my Dr. Bubby boys. But Dr. Bubby need to give her a shout out because I'll be giving her plenty. But anyway, is that when we do everything that we know to do, then guess what? We're going to be very well taken care of. The nature, the universe will find a way to take care of us. You know the saying, they say, people are looked out, babies are I'm messing it up, but it's basically like God looks out for dummies, ignorant people, and babies. So when we do everything we can do, and we all are ignorant of something, then we'll be cared for, we'll be provided for. You're getting this information. That's one way. You're getting this information. You have the opportunity to view this. So do what you can do, and the rest will take care of itself. But like, share, subscribe. Don't keep this no secret, and I mean, I feel like I was entertaining, not that that was the case, but if that gets y'all to look at this information, I do some cartwheels, you know what I'm saying? I do some push-ups. I just want y'all to get this information. So until next time, take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next Saving the World video. And hey, let's do this thing one day at a time. One day at a time. Peace.